Welcome to Devotionary, where we make the Bible accessible and applicable. One of the greatest lessons found in the book of Joshua is the gift of the land to the people of Israel. The land was the result of a promise made by God hundreds of years earlier to their distant ancestor Abraham. God gave them the land as a gift, undeserved, and with the only caveat that they fight to possess the land and obey His commands concerning its use. It was theirs. And they weren't just inheriting undeveloped property that was going to require extensive renovations. They were being given entire cities and villages, farms and orchards, along with rich pasture land and beautiful forests full of timber. It was a land flowing with milk and honey, cultivated and fully capable of meeting all their needs. And in Joshua chapter 15, verses 1 through 19, as Joshua begins the dividing up of the land between the tribes, we'll see that the land was intended to hold great value to the people of Israel, but it was never meant to replace God in their hearts. God was not giving them the land as something to worship, but as a place in which to worship and live in obedience to Him. Judah was the largest of the 12 tribes, and this may have been the reason its territory within the Promised Land was the first to be determined. As chapter 14 revealed, Caleb, a member of the tribe of Judah, was given the city of Hebron in recognition for his faithful service to and faith in God. He and Joshua had been the only two of the 12 spies who had believed that God could deliver the land to the people of Israel, in spite of the presence of powerful enemies. The city of Hebron was located within the boundaries that would be the tribe of Judah's inheritance. We're not told how the boundaries of the lands awarded to the various tribes was determined, but the passage provides detailed information regarding the specific geographic markers that would form the boundaries of Judah's territory. The Dead Sea would form Judah's eastern border. Verses 5 through 11 establish Judah's northern boundary, with very specific details concerning where its territory begins and ends. This was important because it would prevent future debates or disagreements from taking place between the tribes over their allotments and the cities found within them. The Mediterranean Sea would represent Judah's western border. Within these vast boundaries, the clans of Judah would be expected to complete the task of conquering and eliminating any and all of the current inhabitants. They were to capture the cities and make them their own. And Caleb, who had been awarded the city of Hebron, did his part. And Caleb drove out from there the 3 sons of Anak, Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak. Joshua 15, verse 14. But Caleb didn't stop there. He also attacked Debir and offered a special prize, the hand of his daughter in marriage, to anyone who captured the city. His own brother Othniel was the one who ended up garnering the reward. And Othniel would go on to become one of the judges of Israel. See Judges 3, verse 9. These 2 men appear to be highlighted in this passage because they provide examples of faithfulness and obedience to the will of God. They did what God had commanded all the people of Israel to do. They finished what the forces of Israel had begun, continuing the process of spiritual and moral cleansing of the land. The Canaanites were far from eradicated, and it was going to take every single tribe and every member of those tribes to faithfully obey God and trust Him for the strength they would need to continue to possess the land by dispossessing its inhabitants. Even Achsah, Caleb's daughter, recognized that this land was a symbol of God's promise made to Abraham, and she wanted her own part of it. While she had been given to Othniel as little more than a prize, she was not willing to go unrewarded herself, so she requested that her father give her a portion of the land in the form of a spring. "Give me a blessing. Since you have given me the land of the Negeb, give me also springs of water." Joshua 15, verse 19. And Caleb honored her request. The land and everything in it was of great value to the people of Israel. It represented their inheritance. Property would become a primary sign of wealth and affluence among the people of Israel. But the land given to the tribes by God was to remain within their clans. It was not theirs to sell or trade. God had made it clear that they were little more than stewards of the land, because it belonged to Him. "The land shall not be sold in perpetuity, for the land is mine. For you are strangers and sojourners with me." Leviticus 25, verse 23. But actually, God did provide a provision by which the land could be sold, but He had placed very stringent restrictions and conditions on such sales. If your brother becomes poor and sells part of his property, then his nearest redeemer shall come and redeem what his brother has sold. If a man has no one to redeem it, and then himself becomes prosperous and finds sufficient means to redeem it, let him calculate the years since he sold it, and pay back the balance to the man to whom he sold it, and then return to his property. But if he does not have sufficient means to recover it, Then what he sold shall remain in the hand of the buyer until the year of Jubilee. In the Jubilee it shall be released, and he shall return to his property. Leviticus 25, verses 25 through 28. God had established what was known as the year of Jubilee. Every 50 years, the land would be restored to its original owners. This was God's plan for maintaining the original boundaries established between the tribes. You shall count 7 weeks of years, 7 times 7 years, so that the time of the 7 weeks of years shall give you 49 years. Then you shall sound the loud trumpet on the 10th day of the 7th month. On the day of atonement you shall sound the trumpet throughout all your land. And you shall consecrate the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you, when each of you shall return to his property, and each of you shall return to his clan. That 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. In it you shall neither sow nor reap what grows of itself, nor gather the grapes from the undressed vines. For it is a jubilee. It shall be holy to you. You may eat the produce of the field. Leviticus 25, verses 8 through 12. God knew his people well. He realized that they would be prone to take what he had given them and use it to prosper themselves. They would take what was rightfully his and attempt to profit from it in ways he never intended. The land was a gift from God, intended to provide for the people of God. It was not to be a bartering chip used to line their own pockets or to pay off debts. So every 50 years, God required the mandatory release of any and all liens, deeds of ownership, and records of sale. The land returned to its original owners and was kept within the allotment as prescribed by God. And God assured the people of Israel that obedience to his laws concerning the land would bring with it a blessing. They were to faithfully adhere to his commands, and in doing so, he would faithfully ensure their future prosperity and peace. You shall not wrong one another, but you shall fear your God, for I am the Lord your God. Therefore you shall do my statutes and keep my rules and perform them. And then you will dwell in the land securely. The land will yield its fruit, and you will eat your fill and dwell in it securely. Leviticus 25, 17 through 19. The land was a symbol of God's love and covenant faithfulness. It was through the land that God intended to bless his people, using it to provide for all their physical needs. The land would be their source of food, water, shelter, protection, and identity. But they were not to worship the land. They were never supposed to place a higher priority and value on the land than they did on God. The gift was never to take precedence over the giver.